This week on Africa Update, British Cameroon seeks redress of referendum on sovereignty 6 decades after amalgamation with French Cameroon. How has the legacies of colonialism impacted on the Republic of Cameroon? Also on the program, we look at the impact of Nigeria's fuel subsidy removal on its neighbors. Plus, round up Africa with Chiamaka Nwafo. Welcome to Africa Update on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ayuba Ilya. The Republic of Cameroon is one of the African countries that has continued to live with the consequences of the artificial borders and mixed civilization introduced by the Europeans. With the colonization of Cameroonians by Germany, Britain and France, the bilingual country finds itself in a very peculiar situation, having a dual identity of an Anglophone and a Francophone country all at the same time. While the British Southern Cameroon remains an English-speaking region, the French Cameroon remains the dominant region of the country. But with 2 foreign official languages, different principles of law, different educational system, with each of the divides taken after the practices of its colonial master, the polarization has resulted in an agitation for self-determination as British Southern Cameroon cries out for marginalization. Now, on 1st of October 2017, Southern Cameroon Ambazonia Consortium United Front declared the Southern Cameroon as independent state, leading to a conflict that has resulted in the death of many and the displacement of over 2 million people. The leader of the interim government of the Southern Cameroon, Dr. Samuel Sako, have cried out to the United Nations to wade into the crisis between the Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon. But the crisis continues. Joining me to discuss this on Africa Update is Fabrice Lena, Secretary General, Popular Action Party in Cameroon and a human rights activist. Thank you so much for joining us, Fabrice, on Africa Update today.
Thank you for having me as your guest. Greetings from here.
All right. Well, to give us a background, could you take us through the genesis of this conflict that we hear about in Southern Cameroon?
Well, Southern Cameroon's conflict stemmed as far back as 1961. That's where I can take the history from, where at the wake of independence, the United Nations at that time, UNO, decided that the Southern Cameroon can only get independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria or the Republic of Cameroon, who were already independent. And it was quite a tough question because many people in the Southern Cameroon at that time thought that it could be wise or even better if they had been given the opportunity to have independence as a sovereign state, given that they had all the capacities and elements that make up a state. We're talking about population, territory, and a government. Well, this was not the case as the United Nations and the international community at that time just put up the question of plebiscite of whether people of Southern Cameroon had to have independence with the Federation of Nigeria or the Republic of Cameroon. Historically, the Republic of Cameroon and the people of Southern Cameroon were a singular country before the Germans and just before the 2 wars. And well, the campaigns of the 2 main politicians at that time, we're talking about John Foncha and Endele, led to the vote of Foncha, who wanted to take the people of Southern Cameroon for reunification with the Republic of Cameroon on the plebiscite organized February 1961. Well, these are the historical facts. This is what history tells us. Okay. And from there, so many people were not comfortable with the fact of going to join people with who already had a different colonial heritage. And so many people asserted that this may not really go down well, given that the systems of administration at that time by the French colonial master was hyper-centralized, as observed in so many other countries by then, and that of the English colonial masters were relatively loose. The problem stems from the systemic domination, subjugation, absorption of the complete cultural, political, and way of life of the people of Southern Cameroon by the administration of first president of Cameroon, Amadou Ahidjo, in what was called the Federal Republic of Cameroon, with a East and West Cameroon Federation, as was arranged in the 1961 agreement in a 3 days workshop or meeting or conference in Fumba. However, this was not a long-lived arrangement, as in 1966 it died down with the one-party system that was introduced by the former president. And by 1972, everything was shattered as an agenda that many consider today as a hidden agenda was hashed to dissolve the federal system into what is today called the Republic of Cameroon, as the Federal Republic was completely disintegrated or annihilated in the 1961 referendum. And by 1984, when the new president came in power, he simply changed the name of the country from United Republic of Cameroon to the Republic of Cameroon by a presidential decree. Many Southern Cameroon activists, politicians, leaders said that this particular change by decree will cause a problem in the future because the people had not voted for this or had not argued for this, or in the gentleman agreement of 1961, this was not the aspiration of the people. However, the social life and the welfare of the people is not even reflected in the way the government is being managed. So the idea of seceding, the idea of not wanting to continue in this union started as far back as 1961, and then the spirit or the emotions or the request for this grew over time as there came any action in the episode of the history of this country when the central government attempted to further marginalize the people. Okay. And this came to be the elastic limit point in 2016 with the teachers and lawyers manifestation that turned to a full-blown conflict when the government of Cameroon or the central government of Cameroon refused to grant a requested federal republic in 2016 Bamenda discussions. The Southern Cameroon Republic by separatist activist groups abroad.
Let's talk a little about the pre-colonial era. Do you think that the situation would have been better if we didn't have this colonialism by the British, the France, and Germany?
Absolutely, absolutely. You need to come to Cameroon, my brother. You need to visit Cameroon and see. In essence, the grassroots people, which is made up of northwest and west region of Cameroon, have basically the same culture, basically the same way of life, basically the same traditional meals, and they coexist together without any problem. The coastal people, made up of southwesterners, which is partly English-speaking community and partly littoral region of Cameroon, they are the same people having a lot of historical connections and a lot of cultural connections that put them together. And due to the migrations that happened before the colonial era, the movement of the people from one area to another before settlement, we are a mix, of Tika, Bantu, and these different groups and the Fubis of the north that make up this kind of homogeneous or heterogeneous country called Cameroon. We would have been a consolidated country if we were existing in the typical African empire without the influence and intoxication of Western powers.
Okay, now to what extent do you think that this bilingual nature of Cameroon has impacted on the growth and development of the country, where you have this, English and French speaking, differently?
In terms of the country's own propensity towards welfare or a kind of improving the life of citizens by this diverse of culture, it's negative because Since independence, the country had never had a government that is using its own colonial heritage advantages or positive points for the benefit of its people. It has always been to conserve power. It has always been to maintain those who are in power ad infinitum. So it has not actually helped in the development of the country in any way, given that Cameroon should not be experiencing the kind of cost of living is experiencing today, or the low level of infrastructural development is having today, or the low level of unemployment that young Cameroonians are having today, or even finding themselves in a situation of conflict because of colonial heritage, languages, or culture, you see. So the bicultural nature of the country had not been used wisely by those in power, and that's why it is bringing us trouble.
How would you say politicians have cashed in on this to their advantage? You could talk, I mean, you being a politician yourself, so let me hear from how, you know, your colleagues have used this to their advantage.
It's very easy in Cameroon for a politician to say, hey, guy, you don't have to trust these English-speaking guys because, you know, they have this way that they want to take your power. This is your power. It belongs to you. So, you know, partisan politics is divisive by nature. And that's why politicians whose understanding of politics is for personal benefit will always use languages of divide and rule, of putting people at loggerheads so that they can strive to put their team into mental exercise and see how they could better divide the citizens to stay in power. You know, in Cameroon, it's a commonplace for the party in power to select the elites of these different communities who agree with them and are ready to take a certain amount of swollen envelopes or money to serve their people, mortgage the future of their people, mortgage infrastructural development of their people for their political powers, for their political benefit. Even if the society is collectively poor or collectively infrastructurally low or underdeveloped, they don't care much. All they care perhaps is their stomach, what they got to eat, and how they're going to survive in a messy environment. So this is the kind of politics that the old, outdated politicians in Cameroon have been playing all along. And that's why young politicians like us are saying this is not the kind of politics that have to be practiced in Cameroon or even in any part of Africa. It will not help us. My dear brother,
Fabrice.
Zone, the Central Africa sub-region remains one of the most underdeveloped sub-region in the African continent. Not because they will not match up the kind of development or the structures other part of the continent have, but because they have leaders that have no regard for the people. They only want to divide the people as much as they can to stay in power.
Okay, give us an assessment of the efforts and the attempts that have been made in the past to mend the gaps, to mend the, you know, this gaps and this division, and to foster unity in the country.
Well, I can only say things that statesmen, noble statesmen have done. People like Justice Aya Paul Abine, people like Dr. Simon Munzu, people like Madame Edith Kabangwala, people like late Penda Ekuka Christian. Those are statesmen that at one point or the other in the history of this country, they've tried to advise the former government or the present government on how to run the issues of the country without necessarily accruing to conflict. A lot of efforts have been made. Pro-democratic movement, protest movement, right up to this, our generation, where we are taking the lead now into trying to mobilize, sensitize, and create a civic education at the level of youth movement, so that we could match up to the government in place and see how we could tell them that, well, this is how we think things should be done. A lot of initiatives have been carried so far to bring unity in the country, but interrupted by the desire to maintain power by the party in power or the president in power. This is the thing. In 1992, we had elections in Cameroon that the first ever presidential candidate, who is still alive today with the XDF party, won clearly these elections, but it was diverted because the interest was to guard power for the French majority, and they were very, very skeptical and scared of giving the political leadership to the Englishman, John Frundi, from the English-speaking community of Cameroon. In 1994, a conference was held to address the Anglophone marginalization and the minority right of Cameroon that led to what was called the 1996 Constitution. And in this constitution, all what in Cameroon is known as the appointive system of appointing governors, appointing DOs and SDOs to be supervising the work of elected officials had to be abolished to the favor of voted mayors, city mayors, parliamentarians. But these things have never been implemented. The 1996 Constitution is 28 years old today, my brother, and it has never been implemented till date. That means conflict had to arise in 2016 for the government to start saying, hey, we are going to open the English-speaking law department in Enam, in what they call in Cameroon, the School of Public Administration. Hey, we are going to open a commission for bilingualism and multiculturalism so that we could talk about our language diversity and maybe cultural diversity. We are going to open a commission for the... So all these things are coming because people have gone to the roots to protest. And you know, of course, sometimes when people get too angry, they do not want again the little things that will have made them happy before they got angry. And this is the situation of the country today.
Okay.
He will say that the former government and the present government have not achieved anything as far as consolidating the national unity of Cameroon is concerned, as far as improving the infrastructure of Cameroon is concerned, as far as bringing Cameroonians to a certain level of livelihood or even sustainable welfare in their own country. So they have completely failed to deliver to the people of Cameroon. And that is why you're seeing a lot of agitations left and right rising up to the level of separatist movements in the country.
Could you give us an idea of the role that the international community has played, maybe multilateral organizations such as the UN, the AU? How much role have they played in making sure that there's stability in Cameroon with the whole Ambazonia movement?
I will start by the role that Nigeria has played. You know, Nigeria has played mixed role because the state of Nigeria, as the country sharing the largest terrestrial and maritime boundaries with Cameroon, at one point decided to play the international politics with the central government of Cameroon, Abuja-Yaoundé relationship. Meanwhile, the neighboring states of Nigeria to Cameroon, from Adamawa State, Taraba State, Cross River State, Akwa Ibom State, have played their role like a host community to the thousands of refugees that went there to seek for refuge in the tough times of 2018 to 2020. However, this role is not sufficient as Africans for us to sit and say what is wrong with our communities and why must we wait for AU and UN to come before ECOWAS and CEMAC leaders sit down to say that what is happening in CEMAC, why are people dying in CEMAC? You know, why are people dying in ECOWAS? You know, we should first of all look at these sub-regions before we go to the multilateral level. Why? Because if the CEMAC sub-region is not going to talk to President Paul Biya about his own mistakes in his own country as a politician, his own blunders, not the UN will come to play a fair role because they are happy that the ECAS and the CEMAC is ineffective and incapable of performing their function as a political and economic community union, being able to regulate their own issues in their own area. There is no head of state in the Central Africa sub-region that had ever made any statement concerning the conflict in Cameroon since 2017 to present. Not even Chad, not even Congo, not even Central African Republic, not even Equatorial Guinea, you know. And very little head of state in the other part of the continent have talked about this. Notably, I can remember late J.J. Rawlings in Ghana had spoke, but as a former head of state, and maybe some other statesmen, but not sitting head of state have made or taken official stands. Why? So the AU have played this kind of dwindling role of, okay, we condemn human rights violations in Cameroon. We think that there should be some kind of actions that will be taken. We will be investigating what is happening. After the investigation, what next?
Well, all right. So it's a very good place to say the question that you are asking, what next? The question that you are asking, what next? Let's go there. In 1 minute or two, briefly, talk to us about the way forward here.
Well, as a politician, I am mobilizing the youth group of Cameroon to look forward to the elections of 2025 because only political participation and civic engagement of Cameroonian people is going to solve their problem. It's not going to be a international community coming to come and impose on Cameroon whatsoever, you know, the issue of sovereignty and all the like, please. So we are mobilizing Cameroonians for all the strategies possible, democratic and non-violent, to remove the power in place and replace them with a legitimate and legal power that will respect the people of Cameroon and take Cameroon to the place that it deserves in Africa. So we are also looking at engaging conversations with the different separatist movements to let them understand that the dynamics of international community is quite tough and difficult for them, for the issue of separation to be accepted anytime soon. And the humanitarian impact, atrocities, and the suffering of our people don't have a time limit established anywhere as of now that it will end. And for this, as a politician and a political party, we do not go in for violence, we do not go in for guns, we do not go in for war or killings, we go in for non-violent strategies. The pen as means to solve our problems. But for a kind of dictatorship government in Yaoundé, we really need collective action, powerful collective action. Meanwhile, we need to be the brother's keeper. Nigeria need to watch over Cameroon. We need to watch over Nigeria. Thank
you so much, Fabrice Lena, Secretary General, Popular Action Party in Cameroon and human rights activist. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update and sharing your perspectives on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's always my pleasure to share my views.
Well, you're watching Africa Update on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Coming up, we'll take a look at the impact of Nigeria's fuel subsidy removal on its neighbors. Join us again. Now, the porous borders between Nigeria and neighboring countries have created an enterprise for smugglers who purchase large volumes of petrol at a subsidized rate in Nigeria and sell at market prices in neighboring countries. In June 2022, the managing director of the NNPC Limited indicated that daily consumption of petrol had increased to over 103 million liters per day, and that at least 558 million liters were being smuggled. This means that the smugglers and other West African countries benefited more from fuel subsidy than Nigerians. A video of motorcyclists from Cameroon protesting Nigeria's fuel subsidy removal has since gone viral. Take a look.
Ande boje pare manje bere do je sajo mane Senegal do via mun je banga via garwa jotta do destination 150 dum 150 dum 250 adona nana kila hen do nana sharukan
paray do je lamdo yide man mindo wolwina on ala nyebbam do na buri amin sembe on de nyebbam warti yo buri ko dum ya wuro do to nyebbam wala min min huwata on do lara ala on man laare le be ore on be de pri do ko min torata mon malla na may futa way मुझे भूख लगी है मैं आपको खाना है आपको मैं तिनिबू ये है मुझे आपको जनता गारा है निजेरिया कैमरून है नहीं चलता है मुझे मोहम्मद तिनिबू ये नहीं चलूंगा अन्नेबो।
All right, now let's take a look at the cost of the fuel subsidy on Nigeria's economy as released. Now, 445 tankers are being smuggled out of Nigeria every single day, and that's about 33,000 liters to 45,000 liters per tanker. So, and that's in every single day. Now, think about the cost of that. It's about 6.6 million to 9.9 million naira lost on each tanker that goes out of Nigeria by smuggling, and that's huge amount costing the Nigerian government. Then if you take a look at how much the amount of lost monthly is, it's about 120 million liters, million naira rather, that is being lost in terms of the amount monthly to fuel subsidy outside of Nigeria. The Nigerian government pays at least 200 naira on each liter of fuel that goes out of the country. So that's a huge amount that is costing the Nigerian government, which is part of the reason why the Nigerian government decided that it's time to remove the fuel subsidy so that it can use the funds in other projects and other areas of development of the country. Now, we'll take a look at what's happening across the African continent. As usual, Chiamaka Nwafo has us covered on that.
The Senegalese government on Tuesday announced that it was temporarily closing its consulates general abroad following attacks on a number of them against the backdrop of high tensions at home. It reported serious damage, particularly in Milan, where it said the passport and ID card production machines had been destroyed, adding that the consulates will reopen when material and security conditions allow for it. This closure deprives hundreds of thousands of Senegalese abroad of consular services such as assistance and passport issuance. Between January 1st and 3rd, Senegal experienced its worst unrest in years after opposition politician Ousmane Sonko was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment in a vice scandal. This conviction of a personality popular with young people and the underprivileged makes him ineligible for the 2024 presidential election. Sonko has repeatedly claimed that the government is plotting to keep him out of the election, but the government denies this. Kenya will convert a vast coastal forest where the bodies of more than 250 people linked to a doomsday cult have been exhumed into a national memorial site, Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki said on Tuesday. The discovery of mass graves in Shakahola Forest, a 325-hectare bushland that lies inland from the Indian Ocean town of Malindi, has shocked Kenyans. Court leader Paul Ntege Mackenzie is facing various charges in the grisly case, accused of driving his followers to that by preaching that starvation was the only path to God. Investigators began the third phase of exhumation on Tuesday, unearthing 9 more bodies to take the death toll to 251. That's it on Roundup Africa.
Well, that's our show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also watch us live on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ila. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.